My sign is backwards. I have to go fix that.
All right, we are now streaming live. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and potential new Toastmasters. Welcome to Wake Up with Toastmasters. My name is Ken Richardson. I am the District 115 Club Growth Director. And with me today is my lovely co-host, distinguished Toastmaster, and past District Governor, Phyllis Tribby. Good morning, Phyllis. How you doing?
Good morning, Ken. I am fabulous today. Good morning to our public out there. Please view us, contact us on Facebook. Let us know you're out there. If you have questions, now's the time. And even if you're watching later on in the day, you know, those questions can be answered by Ken. He will check that out. So even if you're later in the day, not with us live, you still can ask questions.
Absolutely. And you can always reach me through my email address, d115cgd@gmail.com. That's also our address if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you have a suggestion for a topic you'd like us to cover that either we haven't covered or something you'd like us to revisit on the show. So just let us know. We're very open. And today we are going to be talking about new club sponsors and new club mentors. On Tuesday's show, we talked about club coaches. So we revisited a topic that we think is very, very important. And we noted that, you know, the club coach is there as an experienced Toastmaster who's there to help struggling clubs reach their membership goals and provide a quality environment for their club. Now, when it comes to new clubs, excuse me, there are certain things that you need. One of which is a club sponsor. And I think Phyllis and I have both been a club sponsor at least once, right, Phyllis?
Oh, yes, of course.
And although the paperwork has changed somewhat, the concept is still the same. A club sponsor is, again, a Toastmaster who's interested in helping bring new clubs online. So they work with the club to set up demonstration meetings, to set up, just membership drives to help a new club reach the magic number of 20 in order to charter a new club. They make sure all the paperwork's done, and they just stick with that club to get them up and running. So it's a very, very important role for our members, and you get credit towards your DTM for helping in that role. There is I guess I would call it a guidebook available on the TI website. I can show you what that looks like. We won't go through it a lot, but I want people to be aware. Bear with me a moment.
It seems like there used to be a PowerPoint.
There is, and we are going to look at the PowerPoint a little bit from the mentoring program, because it has some really great questions I want to go through. Let's see here. Bear with me just a second. My computer is surprising. Yeah, it's not.
I've been in Toastmasters 6 years before I realized that there was PowerPoint programming for both mentorship and sponsorship.
Yes, and there's also this guidebook, which I'm trying to get to. I thought I had it here. Here we go. I think we've got it now, that you can download. And let me share the screen here. All right, there we go. This is the new guidebook. It's item number 218H. You know, everything in Toastmasters has an item number. There's a form number, there's an item number. And if you, which I can never remember, but if you just search for club sponsor, you'll get to this point. So this is the guidebook, if you will, on how to sponsor a new club. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I will just tell you that it really covers everything. It goes through the forms that you need. And there is actually within this document, see if I can get down to it, There is a PowerPoint, Phyllis. I'm sure you'll be surprised at that. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So starting from scratch, how to sponsor a new club. So we won't go, I want to focus on the one on mentoring a little bit more, because it has some questions in it as part of it that often come up that we don't think about. But I just want to make people aware that this is item number 218H, starting from scratch, how to sponsor a new club. You can download it for free. Or if you have an idea for a new club and you need some guidance and assistance, contact me and I will work with our club extension chair, Jason Leduc, to help you get started. There's a lot of paperwork involved, of course, there always is, but we can help guide you through that. We can put together a committee to help support, like the demonstration meeting and what have you. So there's an awful lot that we can do to make sure that our club sponsors are successful. And a lot of people ask, well, how long are you committed if you want to be a club sponsor? And my answer to that is, technically speaking, there are two things I want to point out. Technically speaking, you're committed to getting the club up and running and all the paperwork in to get them chartered. And that can vary tremendously in terms of the time frame. But when I was the first club I sponsored several years ago, I was so invested that I stayed, I think I was there at least 6 months. I'd go to the meetings because it was fabulous to see this new club blossom. What about your experience as a sponsor, Phyllis? Can you share that with us?
Well, one of the things that I would like to reiterate in here is that it's called a startup meeting rather than a demo. A demo, I guess, gave the appearance of being something that's one time, whereas a startup meeting indicates to people that it's going to continue. This is just the start of meetings. So we tried to change our way of thinking from demo to a startup meeting. Also, that there can be two sponsors for any one club. So you don't have to do this alone. As Ken said, he's willing to help. Jason Leduc is willing to help. And of course, there can be another person. I'm wondering if this PowerPoint gives us any ideas of where we might start up a new club.
It does talk a little bit about opportunities in the corporate world and how you might approach a corporation to see if they're interested. It also talks about community and specialty clubs. So it gives you some ideas that are very broad in their scope, but that can help you as you start to sort through the potential. And of course, many corporations, and Jason and I can address this, we've been through it this past year, are still recovering from the pandemic. And I know one corporation that had a club and lost it that I had worked with wasn't ready to start over. They were sorting through how they were going to navigate the post-pandemic, which I guess it's probably better to say the post-restrictions.
Yes, there you go.
Because I don't think we've hit post-pandemic yet. It seems like we're going to sort of be struggling with that for a while. But many companies that we've approached and talked to, and this one in particular, said, quite frankly, we need to focus on the business. We need to recoup what we've lost over the past couple of years or so and get back to economic stability and get our customers back. So they're really not ready to think about reigniting their corporate clubs. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. If we have an opportunity, we're certainly going to make a pitch to HR or to the management team, whatever level we can get involved with and make a pitch about a corporate club. Because I do think, I firmly believe that a well-run corporate club will contribute to the success of your company's employees. and that will make them more content and help them to become better communicators and leaders. So that to me is pretty much a given. So
My pitch was always the person that has the best ideas could be the one that's sitting in the back of the room, not speaking up. So get them the opportunities to be a communicator, and maybe you'll get those great ideas from that person that's sitting in the back of the room.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. I've seen so many people who are extremely introverted, and they sit in the back of the room, and you might have been one of those fellows in your day, but they blossom. Yeah, with the support of Toastmasters, they blossom. So starting out as a club sponsor, if you're working on your DTM, is not only a learning experience and opportunity to expand your leadership skills, your organizational skills, it's an opportunity to make new friends and to see a new club come online and function and blossom in the scheme of things. I do want to turn our attention now to mentoring. Where did my, I'm learning that there's certain things you have to do with Zoom that you don't have to do with other programs to keep, and maybe there are other tricks I haven't learned yet, to keep what you want next on top of the stack that's on your desk. So I do want to share with you, there's a similar book for mentoring, as the one we just looked at, for sponsorship. And I selected this one. This is the PowerPoint that TI puts together to help you with this. And interestingly, it's in a PDF format. It's not in PowerPoint itself, which is a bit annoying. So it's here, but if you want to use it the way we normally would use a PowerPoint, you're going to have to jump through a few hoops to either convert it or reconfigure it into a PowerPoint. But I wanted to go over this in a little more details because I found in going through this and reading the literature on the training program that there were some interesting questions that needed to be answered. So just quickly go through this. Talks about the duties of a mentor, how to ensure that you have quality club meetings, to build and maintain membership and recognition. Talks about the education program, of course, pathways, and the Distinguished Club Program and Club Success Plan. So one of the things that distinguishes a difference between a new club mentor and a sponsor is technically, whereas the sponsor's role is to identify, create the club, get them chartered, the mentor's role is just beginning at that point. And they're going to be involved early on too, but the mentor is a Toastmaster who is committed for at least 6 months, and often it can be a year. When I was a mentor, I spent about a year with my club. And the role is to make sure that the club officers understand their duties, make sure that the club has quality meetings. I can't stress that enough, that holding quality meetings where you follow the agenda and you're consistent and people know what to expect and they're given opportunities. Those are the hallmarks of a quality club meeting, and they are essential to helping to build and maintain your membership. If your meetings are not organized in quality and of value to your members, they're not going to stay very long. And then, of course, part of that is maintaining recognition, recognizing your members and their educational achievements, and following the Distinguished Club Program. So these are some of the topics. What do you think, Phyllis? Does this cover the duties of a mentor? I know you've mentored, I don't know how many clubs.
Absolutely. To be a mentor, you really need to know how to do all these roles. So you'll be working with the 7 officers of the club, helping them to learn the priority order, who takes the place of the president if they're not ready or not available to take on leading the meeting. So quality or officer duties is probably a great thing you learn. Next is the quality meetings. Well, you need to personally take on those roles and show them what is good about a Toastmaster and how a Toastmaster goes about conducting the meeting. Then the counter and grammarian, all those things, all these roles, you need to lead people into doing them to the best of their abilities and recognizing how that proceeds, what the meeting is about. One of the things I find that people are table topics master for the first time, they want to call on the people that they think will give the funniest or most interesting answer to their question. And it's up to the mentor to lead them to the place where, no, it's the people that do not have roles you should call on first in table topics, so that anybody that comes to this meeting has had a voice to speak during the meeting. So it's leading them to do the best quality meeting possible.
Absolutely. And I do want to let you know that we do have some online questions coming on. Paul O'Mahony from Ireland is with us today. Welcome, Paul. We're so glad to have you back. And he has some interesting questions here. First, I should tell you that Paul is mentoring 3 clubs, and 2 of them are corporate. So way to go, Paul. That's taking on a very, very challenging load to be simultaneously mentoring 3 clubs. That's really admirable. Don't overextend yourself, Paul. And then he asked, how would having a new club undermine a company's economic welfare? I don't think it's so much the amount of money, Paul, that we're talking about here. The clubs, potential corporate clubs that I was referring to, it's a matter of just so focused on getting back to stability. It's like, I don't need one more thing on my plate. And even though you and I know that building a new club really requires not that much on the part of the corporation, they just have told me, we're just not ready, come back in a year, basically. So I don't think that it's solely a matter of economic issues, because it's not that expensive, but it is a matter of how they prioritize their resources. Anything to add to that, Phyllis? Did I get that?
I think that is it. They don't want to work with anything else. They're kind of at a point where they have so much on their plate, they don't want to take on a new thing. And it's like, hey, give us a room and a little advertisement. Let us see what we can do for your corporation.
Yes, if I could, I've tried to deliver that message many times, and I guess maybe I'm not getting across as much. I think the pandemic has loomed large in our corporate landscape, and it still is the aftermath.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back a little bit here, we want to talk a little bit about, what is a mentor? And we mentioned this earlier. It's a Toastmaster who wants to share their expertise and knowledge with people who have less experience. It's a very simple definition. There are no specific, you don't have to be a DTM to be a mentor. In fact, it gets you some credit. You have to just want to care to help that club. I want to go on down and talk briefly about just some of the benefits, because everyone asks, what's in it for me, of course. Well,
that phrase.
I know. It sounds rather selfish, doesn't it? But in fact, there are significant benefits to the individuals who decide to be a mentor. You get organizational skills, you get to meet new people, you get new leadership skills. You're investing in the future of your Toastmasters district and your Toastmasters clubs. and you, of course, earn that credit. Appointing mentors, the district director can do that, or the club growth director. There's an application to organize a new club. As I mentioned, there's a whole set of paperwork that's changed. I remember many years ago, well, a few years ago, I don't say how many, but I went to a class that was conducted by Kay Collis. And Kay did a wonderful job, as she always does, putting together these binders and going through page by page the paperwork you needed and what the steps were to organize a new club. And it was just marvelous. Of course, now all the forms have changed. So it's a different animal, but the concepts are the same.
The idea is the same. Paperwork just looks a little different. I was in something similar done by D. George Lund.
Oh yeah, good. George is a good one.
Yeah.
So anyway, when you are a mentor, you're going to be part of a team. You're not going to be stuck out there on your own. You're going to have your sponsor, and we talked about that already. And one of the things that you need to be prepared to do is to answer questions. And this is the section I wanted to get to, because some of these questions, Phyllis, many of our members are not sure of the answer. So I think this is an opportunity to help them to understand what the answer is and why. So this question, can an evaluator require a member to repeat a project if the member didn't meet all of the project objectives? What do you think?
I can suggest it as say, I have done this before. I had a woman give a speech that was supposed to be humorous. And as I told her, she did a wonderful speech. It was very interesting, but there was no humor in it. And I thought that the project should be repeated, and offered her time to put in humorous things about the speech. And I think she was into the must be truth to give a speech. And I said, no, we can add things to that. So I did work with her, and she did repeat the project, but I don't think you can require a member.
That's the key word. No, you're right. It's the key word. You can suggest and try to help a member, as you did. Here are some things that you may want to work on, and maybe represent this project, but you cannot require it. You can only suggest it. It's really up to the member. That's one of the real advantages of Toastmasters is it's self-paced, and you are your own evaluator, if you will. In addition to having a peer, you evaluate how well you've done. Okay, I want to go back to Paul for just a minute. Paul O'Mahony, he has a question here in the chat box. He's referring to corporations. Don't they need staff with better communication skills? My answer, Paul, is yes, of course they do, but they may not recognize that, or they may not be ready to hear that message when you're talking with a corporation. Again, because the focus for them at the moment is the squeaky wheel that their bosses have said, this will be your focus for the next 6 months. So you are right. Every corporation, when they stop and think about it, if you say to a corporate leader or manager, don't you want better communication and leadership skills within your corporation? I would be surprised if anyone would say, no, not me, I'm good. But part of delivering communications is understanding the receptiveness and the readiness of the recipient of that information to hear it and to act on it. And that's where I think we have a problem with that. Okay, looking at some more questions here that I'd like us to just briefly chat. I know we're running out of time. If a speaker wants more time for a speech, than what is designated in the project narrative, can they revise the time with the VPE's approval?
Absolutely.
Technically, no. I'm sorry to disagree with you, Phyllis. But if it's any consolation, that was my initial response to this question, was to say, oh yeah, they can do that. Technically, no. If you read the answers that are in the workbook that accompanies this PowerPoint, it details why you shouldn't do that. Because each project is designed to not only build skills, but to build a sense of awareness of the time involved in presenting that project to your club or to wherever, and making sure that you stay within the allotted time frames. Now, you and I both know that it does happen, and I thought it was kind of an individual thing. But in the scheme of the educational guidelines from TI, they say, no, you should really strive to keep these projects within their allocated time, because they consider that an integral part of the learning process.
Okay.
Okay. So you and I both got that one kind of wrong. Here's another question. Can the VPE refuse to approve a member's path or level completion if they, the VPE, believes that the member could have performed better?
That seems like the same as our first question.
Very similar.
Yeah, everybody can perform better than they do. But if they know that all the speeches have been given for that particular level, I believe they have to approve it.
You are absolutely correct. You cannot refuse to approve a request like that. Now, if a member speech went into overtime, can that member still be included when the club votes, if they do, for best speaker of the meeting?
Well, in our case, we would say no. You have to meet your time. And this would be a thing where if you know your speech is going to be 8.5 minutes, that you would request the VP event give you the extra time and state that that's what it's going to be. But now we find that we are not to go over time. So I would say the answer is, can a member still be included? No, I would think not. If you go over time, you can't be the best speaker.
I admire your logic, because it does flow from our previous discussion to this one. However, the answer is different.
Oh, yes.
Yes. The answer here is because the voting for a best speaker or best table topics or whatever it might be is an option that clubs have. They get to make the decision. And if, for example, my home club, we vote for best speaker, best evaluator, best topics answer. But that's not required. My other club that I'm in doesn't do any of that. So the question here and the answer that's in the workbook is, the club can decide what their rules want to be, because they are also the ones who decide whether or not they're going to recognize best speaker or most improved speaker in the first place. So that's why I wanted to get to some of these questions. I found them most interesting, and they do come up. I've had them, come up, and now we have some official answers. Let's see, Paul is back. Glad to see you, Paul. Let's see. He says, your interpretation of what a member is permitted to do is very different to mine. Well worth debating the questions and suggestions. I couldn't agree with you more, Paul, because one of the things I've found is, I've been in Toastmasters for a while and got to visit a lot of clubs, is that there are differences between clubs. And I admire and encourage those differences, because clubs need the opportunity within certain parameters to establish their own norms and their own policies, if you will, of how the club meeting is going to be conducted. And I think it's important to have that. However, there are limitations on how you can conduct that and still be within the framework. A good example that always comes to mind is I get asked, well, do we have to have a Pledge of Allegiance? No, you don't. That's a club decision. Do we have to have a joke master or humorous moment? No, you don't. But you do have to follow the general concept of the three parts of a meeting: prepared speeches, impromptu speeches, and evaluation. The other things that you decide as a part of your club, it's really up to the club members. The other thing I want to make on that, and I know we're running out of time, so we'll kind of stop here. But the other point that I want to make on that is that even within the framework of the prepared speech, table topics, or impromptu and evaluation, there is some flexibility. Because one of the things that you sort of balances that is you want to make sure that your meetings are interesting and that they engage your members. So some variety, for example, if you were going to have a debate instead of the more traditional, those debate topics and the debate format fit well into a Pathways project. So they work together. You can have variety and still be within the framework provided by Toastmasters, and you have some flexibility to determine the additional things like an educational moment or a humorous moment that you want to add. Well, we are at 6:31. Sorry, we always we get so involved in the discussions and what have you, Phyllis, that we
run over every time, but there's so much that we can be saying about it. Maybe we're needing to take one of our sessions and make 2 sessions out of it.
We might do that one of these days. Yeah, we might just go on for an hour or so, and hopefully we wouldn't lose too much of our audience. But I do want to wrap up today by thanking everyone for being here. If you have questions, Paul, thank you for being with us today, all the way from, he's in Cork, Ireland, I believe. I have attended actually one of their online meetings. It's a lot of fun. But I want to remind everyone that coming up this weekend, we have contests. Let's see, C1D1, I believe. They are holding their contest at NV Energy. Mm-hmm. So if you want more information, you want directions, you need how to get there and that kind of thing, please send me an email at d115cgd@gmail.com. Also coming up down the pike, we will be holding our first, in a couple of years anyway, first in-person convention, our annual meeting for District 115. That's going to be on May 14th. Be sure and put that on your calendar, as well as the remainder of the contest. And at the district meeting, we will have the culmination of all of these area, club, and division contests that we've been holding. And if you'd like to be a guest, shoot me an email, d115cgd.com@gmail.com, and we will get you scheduled. Phyllis, anything you want to say to help wrap up?
Don't forget, this is game week night.
Oh,
and this
yes.
Saturday night is game time. So come and visit with your fellow Toastmasters. See what kind of games that we've come up with.
Excellent. I'm glad you brought that up. Last Saturday of every month, our program quality director conducts game night. It's open to anybody. It's not required. It's online. And if you need a link, again, send me an email and I will send you the link to get registered and get you set up. I want to thank you again, Phyllis. Let's see. Paul, one last thing from Paul here. I am mentoring a club in Thailand. Wow. Now, Paul is in Ireland. He's mentoring a club in Thailand. Okay, that's a long flight. But congratulations, Paul. Good for you. And he says that club specializes in debates. That's awesome. That's something that we ought to think about in terms of developing more specialty clubs. One that specializes in debates would be good, I think. For
many years ago, I used to belong to a club called Provocateurs. And that was it. One pro, one, one for, one against. And every week, every meeting, we had a debate on one of our subjects.
So I think that's a good way to, if you will have a specialty club that focuses on debate, that's great. But also, if you have the opportunity to shake up your meetings a bit, you can still create debates that will fall within your pathways requirements. All right, any final words, Phyllis, before we say goodbye to our show today?
Come and join us. We're here Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And of course, throughout the week, we have our program quality director, if you can't make Tuesday or Thursdays, and our program public relations manager, Jennifer Smith, on Wednesdays. We'll see you on Tuesday, everyone. Have a great, great weekend and show up at the contest to support all of our members as we get through the wonderful contest season. You'll have a great time. Bye-bye.
Bye.